In the land of culinary wonders, China serves up an endless buffet of flavors that can leave your taste buds doing a dragon dance. From spicy Sichuan dishes that make you sweat like a fire-breathing dragon to delicate Cantonese dim sum that's like a tiny food parade in your mouth, Chinese cuisine has more variety than a kung fu master has moves. So, grab your chopsticks and embark on a flavor adventure that'll leave you wonton more. If you thought you'd seen enough of China's bizarre food combinations, then you're about to be blown away in just a minute. Can you guess what? We'll give you a hint. It's not an animal or a plant. In fact, it isn't a living organism at all. Hey guys, welcome back to Culinary Curiosities. In this video, we're taking a trip down to China and telling you all about their latest street food fad. But I'm warning you, you're gonna need a heart of stone to try this one. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. One trend that's currently making waves, at least on Chinese social media, is the centuries-old dish called Soybean. Quite literally, the word means suck and dispose, and that's all what this dish is about. And no, it's not about eating any wild animals or insects this time. It's actually about eating rocks. Yep, you heard that right. Ethnic Chinese cooks are preparing and serving rocks to customers. Not just any rocks. We're talking about special river rocks that absorb all the delicious flavor you throw on them. No, you don't actually munch on the rocks. Like we said, Soybean is a suck and dispose food. This means you just suck on the rocks to get the flavor, then dispose of the rocks. And if you really think about it, then it's not much different than eating something with bones. Now, videos of chefs making these special stir-fried rocks are all over social media right now. Some of them have chefs frying up pebbles with garlic and chili in busy night markets, while others show villagers in the countryside cooking freshly fished stones on a riverbank. It's almost like going fishing and then grilling the fish right there, except it's just stones. So, what's the cultural history behind this dish? To understand why this dish exists, we need to understand why they eat rocks anyway. Huge historical significance. These aren't your typical rocks found in the river. They're the small rocks or pebbles that are usually found in freshwater streams or rivers. And you know what else is in there in the same areas? Fish and other marine life. There may be no written record of when this first dish first appeared in China. This delectable dish is said to have existed for several hundred years already. Soybean isn't something that people would eat on a regular Saturday. It's actually a rare dish, something that was only eaten when all food and vegetable supplies were completely depleted already. Back in the day, portable foods didn't exist and preservatives weren't used. People couldn't just do their meal prep on a Sunday and throw food in the fridge for later like we do now. Because of that, it was really difficult to keep and store food for a long time. And when you put summer heat and humidity into the equation, storing food just becomes a whole new mess. For the boatmen who had to travel for weeks and months at stretch, storing food simply wasn't an option. They would sometimes hunt for fish, but if they couldn't find any, then they'd make do with rocks and pebbles. Since these rocks were fished out of freshwater, they had the taste of marine life. In simpler words, they tricked your brain into thinking that you were eating fish. You and I might think the rocks must have an earthly or muddy flavor when cooked, but these unique ones actually taste a heck of a lot like fish. Soybean comes from Hubei, a province in China that's often called the land of fish and rice. And of course, it makes perfect sense that the boatmen in this area just needed to get a taste of fish on their long voyages. Now, the traditional stir-fry recipe has been passed down for generations by boatmen. It's mostly served by street vendors in both the Hubei and Henan provinces of China. But get this, you need to keep the rocks fresh if you want the perfect flavor. If they're out of the water for too long, then they start losing their flavor pretty quick. Speaking of flavor, it's time to tell you guys about how the world's hardest dish is cooked. Many of the videos we saw on TikTok showed the super unique way these street vendors cook up their rocks. Most vendors dump a lot of chili oil onto pebbles that are already sizzling on a teppanyaki style grill, and then sprinkle garlic sauce all over them. Then they add other ingredients like garlic, ginger, chilies, shallots, onions, peppers, and more vegetables. And of course, how can you have flavorful rocks without a selection of fresh spices? All this deliciousness is stir-fried until you can smell the aroma of something wildly similar to freshly cooked chow mein. Now, some expert chefs say that you need to cook the stones on high heat. By the looks of it, the high heat is what brings out the river snail-like flavor of the pebbles. Customers are served these flavored stones in palm-sized boxes. Each portion costs about 16 yuan, which is a little over $2. And even though the dish is as popular as alcohol in China, the internet trolls were having a field day in the comments section of these videos. Many of them thought there's literally nothing on the plate that would cost $2, just some spices and stones to suck on. We're not saying they're right, but we can't say they're wrong either. If you're eating the dish, you'd just suck all the rocks and throw them away, and then finish the rest of your stir-fried veggies. But if you're feeling adventurous, feel free to keep your sucked rocks as souvenirs. But wait, if this is a centuries-old dish, why did it just resurface? Well, according to the history of the dish, it actually faded in popularity when economic development came into the picture. Remember how boatmen would make it because they couldn't store food any other way? Well, when motorized vessels came to Hubei, people stopped worrying about being stranded without food and supplies. Until the 1950s, boatmen would still eat sodia several times a year. But by the time the 80s came around, the dish had faded into oblivion. Now that it's back, people on the internet and beyond seem to have some mixed reactions. Some think it's a cheap marketing gimmick, while others are worried that people could end up choking on small, smooth rocks if they aren't careful. That's not even the most surprising part. Would you believe that some Chinese people find the whole thing a bit offensive? The thing is that people have heard the dark stories behind fried rocks. Those were some bitter days, and people who have family members who used to be boatmen know how hard the economic crisis was. Now that the rocks are back as an internet sensation, they don't really know how to feel about it. Here's the question of the day. Can you make sodia at home? If you can get your hands on some freshwater rocks, that is. A few months before this recent TikTok trend took over, one user had already tried his hand on making the traditional Chinese stir-fry at home. He ended up using coriander, green onion, soybean paste, garlic, butter, ginger, and peppers. And even though he said he liked it, he still mentioned that he might have made it too spicy for his liking. And yeah, he said he'd add chicken next time. If you buy this dish off the streets in China, you'd have to settle for all the spice they throw in. If you decide to make it at home, then you could always mix and match things until you make perfect tasting rocks to suck on. Whatever you add, make sure you stir fry the veggies with scallions, ginger, and garlic first so you get all that delicious aroma. Then throw your rocks in and don't forget to turn up the heat. Stir everything around for a few minutes and serve hot. Lots of people say that the dish pairs surprisingly well with alcohol. We don't know if that's because it actually complements the taste or if you just need to be a little tipsy to enjoy flavored rocks. Whatever it is, feel free to pour yourself a glass of wine when you try this. Or maybe even a shot of tequila. Whichever one works for you. Will you be cooking up stir-fried stones? Let us know in the comments section below. And remember to subscribe to Culinary Curiosities to feed your hunger for more facts, history, and trends.